And we are back in good old Germany. Whew, that was a tough 5 days. But as I said, we had a great time. So today might finally be the day the shitstorm gets me. But actually I'm really hoping it does, because this topic is very important and it is also very controversial. Does the strategy have to make sense to trade it? So if you have a profitable system, do you have to be able to explain why it works from a holistic market standpoint? And by explaining, I don't mean stuff like, oh, price is going up here because the stochastic just was in oversold mode, bullshit like that. I mean from a real hypothetical standpoint. What is the hypothesis behind your system? Does that have to make sense? Do you even need one? I think there are two answers to this question. One is, if you are a manual trader, yes, you absolutely need a hypothesis that works for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense. That only means it makes sense to you. How often have you encountered a thread on the internet, on a forum somewhere, where someone presented his system and also the premise the system was built upon, and it didn't make sense at all whatsoever to you, but it worked for the creator? For example, volume spread analysis. Total bullshit for me. Elliott wave theory. Bullshit. That's my opinion. I know people are making money with that stuff, or have been in the past, but to me it simply doesn't make sense, and I cannot trade a system based on a wrong hypothesis. As long as this hypothesis is wrong in my mind, it doesn't matter whether it is actually correct or not. And then on the other point, the markets are so complex. If you look, I think it was Mark Douglas who said, to know what happens next, you would need to look into all the brains of all the market participants at the same time, assess what they are doing. So it's impossible to know what the market is doing next. You can simply look for patterns in the market that, if they happen, they have a certain probability of this and that happening next. However, that pattern could be purely random and it could dissolve 2 or 3 years later, even though it existed for 20 years. I mean, human psychology won't change, so if you are lucky, your pattern is based on human psychology. But how do you want to prove that? There's just no way. And of course, there are some trading styles which make more sense from a holistic point of view, like trend following, that follow overarching themes, for example, interest rate decisions and so on. Those are really the only systems that really can claim that they are based on a hypothesis that can be proven wrong or right. But day trading systems, 4-hour trading systems, daily charts, no, I just really don't think so. The underlying logic of the system might make sense to you, but that doesn't make the logic wrong or right, because it's based on empirical evidence, on your observations. Also, the sun has been going up for the last 1,000 years, as David Hume said in his Treatise of the Human Mind, but that doesn't mean that the sun has to rise tomorrow. There is no correlation between our observations and actual things that are happening in the world or in the markets. Now, why do you need a hypothesis that makes sense to you as a manual trader? Well, because else you couldn't trust your system and you would fail horribly, because you could never follow it if you don't trust it. You could never stick to it. I mean, of course you could do a backtest of your system and go back the last 20 years and backtest that data and see whether your system worked or not. But if it doesn't make sense to you, I'm pretty sure you still couldn't trade it, because you are not a machine. We humans, we crave for logic. And the ironic thing is that an actual system, a machine, does not crave logic. It does whatever it's told to do, no matter what the underlying logic is. So if you are an algorithmic trader, a fully automated algorithmic trader, you might still want to have systems that are based on premises that make sense to you, but human logic is flawed and faulty anyway. So even if, as I said, the system is based on a premise that makes sense to you, The premise could still be bullshit, and 99% of the cases it is, so it doesn't really matter. So if you have a system, you found a correlation, you found a pattern that has made money over the last X years or trade instances, but you can't really explain why that is the case. Would you still trade the system? I would, for sure. And of course there is a little bit more that plays into this, like robustness testing and so on. But if the system qualifies as a candidate to trade, I would absolutely trade it, even if I could not explain the underlying logic. And I love to trade systems like that. Why? Because everyone is doing the same. Everyone in the market is thinking about the market in the same way. And that is why everyone's edge is so fragile, because people will sooner or later find the exact pattern you are trading, and then it becomes useless the more people find it. And as long as you base your patterns on this common knowledge, logic, human logic, or whatever you want to call it, you can only find the exact same patterns as everyone else. If you want to find the hidden patterns in the market, you need to look at things differently, and you need to be more open-minded and free yourself of the prison of human logic. Because quite frankly, a lot of the time the markets don't make any sense. And if you find a pattern or a system that repeatedly extracts alpha from the market and passes robustness testing criteria and forward tests and whatnot, you would be a fool not to trade that system, even if you could not explain it. Now, I hope I didn't shatter your confidence in your system. Whatever makes sense to you, supply, demand, buyers, sellers, volume, whatever you think is moving the market and you base your system on, stick to it if it works for you, because that is the most important thing. Almost every trading legend I ever read interviews of, they are so stuck in their views, like saying fundamentals are fundamentals, technicals are black voodoo magic or whatever, yeah? Because you need to believe in your system so much that you disregard all the other systems as bullshit, because they are actually an attack on your belief system. And if your belief system in trading starts to have cracks, then your whole trading will fall apart. And these people, they have simply found a way to explain the markets for themselves that makes sense to them. It's like a religion. Some people explain the world with science, and some people explain the world with religion or whatever is your belief system. And whoever attacks that belief system with their own views is regarded as an enemy, because if they were right, that would mean your whole existence is wrong, or at least very fragile. I could talk about this topic forever, and I'm pretty sure some people will be very angry when they see this video. And it's fine, as long as they don't start an inquisition against me or some shit like that. So that was quite heavy today. Very philosophical, very theoretical, but also very important in my opinion. I'm gonna smoke some dope now to calm down and call it a day.